I'd like to welcome here to CFAX 1070, voice we've spoken to in the past. Orion Rodgers is Director, Property Rights Association of BC with the latest. Morning, how are we doing?
Hey, how you going, Adam?
Pretty good, or it's afternoon. My apologies. It was morning when I started talking. I'm sorry if that was a little long-winded, but I wanted to get everybody up to speed. So we've been through the provincial political lens. You had the town hall that happened at City Hall in Victoria. Victoria Council has been asked to do advocacy. It has declined to do so. You've had others calling on the government to make these allocations or relaxations. Government's not going to do it. Now the courts are getting involved. So what's happening?
Similar to our town hall, we've had to take these matters into our own hands. I mean, this lawsuit against the province, it's not just for short-term rental owners. It's not just for private landowners. It's a stance for all citizens against government overreach. The provincial government is not immune to the court of law.
When you say that they're not immune to the court of law, seemingly they would be immune to municipal advocacy or everything else you've tried, conceivably.
We've tried to have discussions. We've sent letters. We've tried to reach out. You know, they've dug their heels in. They've framed this whole law, this whole legislation as an initiative for creating affordable housing, which we've seen in other areas, Quebec, Toronto, New York, and definitely Vancouver. It hasn't created affordable housing.
What would we be looking for an indication that this policy either works or doesn't work? Or has the government created it so it can always be a matter of conjecture?
I think it will fall on data at the end of the day, and it'll be years gone by the time they would ever see anything, which, as I can reiterate, from what we've seen in other places, it hasn't worked. These strict rules and regulations have not helped. We need to build more housing. Build it, right? Not take it away from people. And like you said, it never was that housing stock, or it never was that affordable housing stock.
How many users do we have here in the city of Victoria specifically? Because I've heard various numbers thrown around. What's your understanding?
They talked about it the day that they gave themselves that raise. Jeremy Caradona had his own inaccurate numbers as well as city bylaw, and Stephen Hammond, got to the bottom of the numbers. There's 379 licensed STRs currently in the city of Victoria.
Thank you.
379.
Because they were throwing around like 1,500, 1,600, and you kind of heard me stumbling over there as I go through my notes because the number wasn't nearly that big. We're debating less than 400 units.
Exactly, and that's a major contribution to so many different avenues of tourist accommodation, people with medical needs, film industry, and many others. And it's unfortunate because we keep hearing that the hotel industry could accommodate it. Well, the hotels are full. They're 100% full. And if you hear differently, that means that their Mondays are sitting empty. Let's look at the weekends, the long weekends and the big events that we need to accommodate travelers for.
How do we know how full the hotels are? Because I had some people say, Adam, that's not true. They're not full. You should check. How do you know how full they are?
I believe Paul Nurse's quoted as saying last summer hotel occupancy was 86%. If you take one Monday from each week over the month, that's 86%. That's a very false snapshot of a hotel occupancy versus demand. How much demand is there for Friday, Saturday, Sundays, or the long weekends, BC Day, Canada Day, the Lions game that's coming? I mean, let's be honest, we're full.
Oh, I see. So it's a peak demand issue instead of an aggregate demand issue. Okay, I can understand that.
Yeah.
So as who's actually getting sued here, or is somebody getting sued, or what technically has been filed?
That's right. Great question. So it's a judicial review against the legislation. We're looking into government overreach, into vested rights for these citizens, these property owners, and we're also looking for a stay of the enactment and of the enforcement at the local government level and at the provincial level.
Have either of the other parties responded yet?
I don't think we'll hear anything from them until next week, Adam.
All right. So what are the time frames going forward in terms of specific dates on this? I know May 1st is the day the law changes things, so clearly you'd prefer the court make some sort of intervention before then.
The province and cities have a timeline that they'd have to adhere to for responding, and then it's before the courts after that. Our legal counsel will handle those things.
Okay. What is your group going to be doing as this matter progresses? Because you've got, 18 days until the change. Yes, this legal process is unfolding. Is there any other advocacy that you'll be doing in parallel to it?
Of course, we'll continue to reach out for whoever will talk with us. I mean, we've been doing that since the beginning. I've been on your show. You've heard from many others. We've been professional. We've reached out. We've brought our arguments, all landed on deaf ears.
Yeah, and you actually even heard Dave Thompson, Councillor Thompson there, say that the emails that he's gotten from your group and your supporters tend to be very polite and very professional. And the context that was in is they were also having people complain about them giving themselves the pay raise that day. So while the praise surely was qualified, the council has recognized that your group has been professional in its advocacy. I have to ask, what happens if May 1st comes and goes and we don't see the courts intervene? The changes are made as expected. What happens after that?
It'll be up to the individual, and depending on their licensing and availability, their zoning, and the rules that apply, of course. But we'll defer to our legal counsel to give us direction on how to proceed.
Okay, because I was going to say, is it too late at that point? Are people forced to sell at that point? Do people just have to stop being an Airbnb at that point? Like, what actually happens on May 1st?
Trying to figure out the legislation is just as confusing for everybody, and that's the problem. I believe there's another set of regulations coming out after April 18th. So the province is really waiting for the last minute to give everybody the full understanding of what they can and can't do.
Okay, so on April 18th, we'll get regulations that will tell us exactly what happens on May the 1st, but we don't entirely know right now?
Supposedly, there'll be more information coming after the 18th.
Wow, that's stressful.
It's unfortunate. I mean, we all want illegal short-term rentals to be shut down, right? That could have been the easiest thing to do. Create legislation, come in, take away the illegal people, the licensed, lawfully operating people that have been operating for years, right? The zoning allowed them to do that. Why are they being attacked,
I wish I had better answers for you. Yeah, I just found it here. They've licensed 379 units so far in 2024. Do you worry that these incentives might cause some people to simply attempt to operate their units without a license so that they can evade detection?
I'm unsure on that answer. I mean, from what I hear, people just say, this is my property. I'll decide what I want to do with it.
Okay. We're going to continue to follow this story, of course. So it sounds like there's a significant date coming up 6 days from now. That's April the 18th, when we're expecting the regulations to be published. 12 days subsequent to that would be, or around 12 days, might be 13. I'm just doing the math here. May the 1st would be when we actually see the change. And at this point, we don't know exactly what that change might look like. Orion Rodgers coming on the show talking about a judicial review being sought, relief being sought, hoping that the court will step in and intervene before these changes happen on May the 1st. Is there anything else you'd like to leave with our listeners at this time?
I think it's safe to say it's just simply not fair or just for these people that follow the rules, right? We've had a hotel industry lobbying against this short-term rentals for 10 years, trying to wipe out mom-and-pop businesses. We have people that followed all the rules. They paid all the taxes, $93 million in taxes provincially last year alone off of the Airbnb platform. I mean, here's the government putting their hand out, taking the money on one side, and then everyday folks are suffering on the other side.